morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. It is Tuesday afternoon here in Northern England. It's 1:45 in the afternoon. And I spent my morning watching Defence Diaries. Andrew Baldwin was on there. Overnight my time. So I watched it this morning. That's the reason, actually, why I'm doing a live stream rather than a recorded video, because I'm not going to keep you very long, and I could easily have done this in a recorded video, but I spent too long. I spent too long catching up on things that happened overnight my time. So I watched Defence Diaries, and then I started watching The Law Lodge. Yes, I did give him a view with Seth Rogers, relating to the Sebastian Rogers case. Is it worth finishing? Or is it going to make me want to punch my laptop through a window? Asking for a friend. Anyhow, I'll decide whether I want to go back and finish that. But there's a hearing this afternoon for Karen Reid. So I've got some stuff to do, non-YouTube related. But I want to get that done before the hearing for Karen Reid. So I'm not going to keep you very long. And for those following the Karen Reid case, that's another shit show. That's another absolute shit show. But we're here to talk about Delphi. And Baldwin is a boss. Yeah, he is. He is a boss. He is a boss. I'm not going to play any clips from Defence Diaries, but I wholly recommend you go and watch it. Andrew Baldwin was on there, and although he didn't give us anything new per se that's not come out in the court filings from the last couple of weeks, it was interesting hearing everything from his own words. And when I read motions written by Andrew Baldwin, and he has got a very characteristic writing style, so you know absolutely Andy's written what Andy's written and what Andy hasn't written. I end up like, you know, the internal voice you have when you're reading stuff. Well, I hear Andy Baldwin. Like, I read the words, but I can hear Andy Baldwin. I think I'm probably a little bit too invested, aren't I? If I'm getting to that point where my internal voice isn't my own, it's Andrew Baldwin's. Helena, member for 7 months. Yeah, I'm going to keep on carrying with Delphi until the wrong man is released. And maybe at some point in the future, the right man or men will be done for this. But if the right man's Ron Logan, the time's been and gone, hasn't it? The time's been and gone. But you see, this is the thing. Is there anything not already said about the whole law lives from the Delphi area? You see, the thing is that some of the old stuff, the stuff that, you know, maybe made you shrug your shoulders and go, that's a bit weird, or, you know, not think too much about it. Some of that stuff takes on a new significance. Now we know what we know. So it's absolutely worth going back and having a look at that old stuff. And that's what we're going to do in this live stream. And also it's worth doing because, you know, this case happened in February 2017. And a lot of people who are now following this case only started following it when Richard Allen was arrested. So they've not gone back to the older stuff. And I think it's important for those people who continually say, you know, the right man's in prison and you lot are just conspiracy theories. And there's a group of them in my Facebook group who are doing that right now, you know, calling us all conspiracy theorists and, you know, can't accept that Rick Allen's in prison, and they're just parroting the absolute nonsense without really thinking about the evidence. So I think it's worth going back and just showing people that there's a whole story relating to this case that is now coming back. It's like things are going full circle, if you will, with the Reese Davis letter. And I think we're going to hear more from Reese Davis as time goes on. And Reese Davis is giving those old persons of interest that were discussed ad nauseum in the years before Rick Allen was arrested. It's given that a whole new lease of life, and it's worth going back and actually acquainting people with that older stuff. And that's what I'm doing here today. I want to show you something relating to Ron Logan, which proves one of the things that Reese Davis has said. And then I want to play some clips. Whilst I've been messing around this morning and kind of wasting time. Yes, I watched Defense Diaries, but I've been digging up old news clips relating to Kegan Klein. And just for my benefit, really, but I'm going to play them. I've got only 5 clips, only short ones, lined up for those people who don't know the backstory of Kegan Klein and why he was so many people were so certain that Kegan Klein was it. And then when Rick Allen was arrested, it was, well, could Rick Allen have been in league with Kegan Klein? And I went down that route as well. I tried my very best to find some kind of link between Kegan Klein and Rick Allen when Rick was first arrested. And Kegan's he was only in his 20s when all this went down. But his dad, Tony Kline, is around the same age as Rick Allen. So I thought, well, maybe the link is not with Kegan, it's with Tony. Maybe Tony and Rick Allen knew each other. But I cannot, and I've never been able to find any link whatsoever between Rick Allen and Tony Kline. Not that's available anywhere. And I'm not aware that anybody has ever been able to find a link between the Klines and Rick Allen. It appears there's no link between Rick Allen and anybody who is being a previous person of interest in this case. Rick Allen kind of stands alone as the patsy. He's the perfect patsy. He really is the perfect patsy, because it's not like he's had any form of protection as some of these guys have had. And it's clear some of these guys have had protection. It's absolutely clear. Because Nick McClelland knows too many people in Carroll County. As I keep saying, Nick McClelland should never have been the prosecuting attorney on this case. He's too close. He's too close to the families. Well, at least to the Patty / German family. I don't know about any connection with the Williams, but Nick McClelland's aunt is married to Brad German. Brad German is Libby's grandfather, like a bio grandfather. Mike Patty is her step grandfather. So Brad German used to be married to Becky Patty, and he is Derek German's dad, like bio dad. Now Brad German is married to Nick McClelland's aunt. So yeah, all right, it's only extended family, but still, it's family. And I just don't think that Nick McClelland should have been allowed to be the prosecuting attorney on this case. He knows too many people. And I don't know. Case by case has started to unwrap the tentacles. Yeah, I'm following her stuff. I am. She's doing really good work. I gave her a shout out yesterday. So I'd very much recommend going checking out case by case. So it's case and then across a time sign, case by case. True Grit Crime's another one who's got some good stuff. But for those people who don't like really long lives, then you may have to kind of watch it in parts, because they do tend to have really long lives. I know Nick shouldn't prosecute anyone. He should be disbarred. Absolutely should. Absolutely should. Without a doubt. All right. In the interest of moving us along, I'm not going to say individual hellos today. Some of you will be pleased at that. I'm going to get straight into this. So, Reese Davis letter. Read it the other day on a live stream. I now can understand the words. I know some of you think he's got really beautiful handwriting. I really struggle to read it, but I think I've got it. And this was the letter that he sent to Max Lewis only a few days ago from Fox 59 News. And Max Lewis requested an interview with Reese Davis. Reese Davis is in Newcastle Correctional Facility. He's got 50 years for meth dealing. It's a crazy sentence. And he's got to serve half of that sentence before he can be eligible for parole. So he'll be out, I don't know, at some time before he's an old man. So at least he will see the light of day. But he's not requesting anything. He's not requesting a change of his sentence. There's nothing in it for him doing this. And he's the one who, whilst he was in Newcastle Correctional Facility in 2017, spent a short time with Ron Logan. He was in the same pod as Ron Logan. And then in 2024, so March 2024, he was then put in the same pod as Kegan Klein. So he's got this unique position that he's spoken to both Ron Logan, and Ron Logan confessed to him that he murdered Abby and Libby back in May of 2017. And Reese Davis rung in a tip to the Delphi tip line. But nothing was done about it. The FBI were investigating Ron Logan. The FBI thought that Ron Logan was problematic, shall we say. I've read the Ron Logan search warrant on a previous live stream, but there's just one little paragraph here that I just want to highlight, because this is a perfect example of things that happened back in 2017, early 2018. So within the first year after the murders, that didn't mean anything at the time. You know, it might have raised some eyebrows maybe in the local community, but for the vast majority of us, it was inconsequential. It didn't mean anything. But it takes on a whole new significance. Now we have Reese Davis talking. Okay, so although I am the furthest fan of people who commit certain types of crimes, but to agree to allow a sex offender walk right out of prison on your watch with a promise that if you are elected into office, you would do so. I was told by Ron Logan in advance that Nicholas McClelland told a couple of family members of Logan's, Ron Logan himself, and this is what Nick McClelland allegedly said, and I'm sure this is paraphrasing: if I'm elected, I will let Ron out. I don't believe he committed that crime. And it appears that Nick McClelland was true to his word. So, this is from the Carroll County Comet. December, is that 6 or 26? But 2017. There's a young-looking Nick McClelland, Brother Nick from Tipton County Lodge, who got his Master Mason degree from the same Masonic Lodge that Brad Holder is the senior steward at. Anyway, we're not talking about Brad today. Republican Chair Beth Myers said the majority of the 15 precinct committee chairs present at a caucus to choose a prosecutor to fill the unexpired term of Carroll County Prosecutor Rob Ives voted to put Nick McClelland in the position on December the 2nd. So December 2nd, 2017, that's when Nick McClelland took over as the prosecutor in Carroll County. The previous prosecuting attorney, Rob Ives, believed that Abby and Libby's crime scene looked ritualistic. There was an interview with Rob Ives back in 2017, and I've tried to find it. I cannot find it. It's like it's been buried or scrubbed or something. But there is an interview, I swear down, some of you will remember this from the very early days. There's an interview with Rob Ives saying that he believed the crime scene was ritualistic in nature, like the way it looked was ritualistic in nature. I did watch Andy Baldwin on Defense Diaries last night. I mentioned that at the beginning. You must have just come in. I mentioned that right at the beginning. Right at the beginning. I'm not going to play any clips for it, but it's absolutely worth a watch. We didn't hear anything new that Andy's holding back, but it was really interesting to hear the latest stuff from Andy's own words. The Wayback Machine. I've never had that much success. I've never had that much success, but yeah, I did watch it. I did watch it this morning. Anyhow, so this is December 2nd, 2017. A young-looking Nick McClelland takes office. All right. Remember what Reese said? That Ron Logan told him that if Nick McClelland's elected, he'll let Ron Logan out. All right. Well, here we are. Ron Logan, he was released in January 2018 after his prison sentence was modified to in-home detention. Police have not charged Logan or any other person with killing Abby or Libby. So just 1 month after Nick McClelland took office, Ron Logan was released from prison. Now, bear in mind, Ron Logan was not in prison because of the Delphi murders. He's never been charged, was investigated by the FBI, but he was never charged. But they got him on probation violation. They got him on probation violation. He was on probation. He was doing stuff he shouldn't have done, and they hiked him back to prison. And that's how he encountered Reese Davis. Because he was a serial traffic violator. He was done for DUI. He was already a felon. He had weapons in his possession that he shouldn't have had as a felon. So they hiked him back to prison. All right. But he was released just a month after Slicky Nicky took office. How interesting. Is it a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that in January 2018, just 1 month after Nick McClelland took office, Ron Logan was released to in-home detention? So he could go about his property, could, I don't know, play with his fish, breed his rabbits, ride about on his horses. He could do his stuff on his property, and there you go. So what Reese said in this letter actually came to pass, didn't it? Was that coincidental? I don't know. I don't believe there are any coincidences in this case. I don't believe look, when people say there's no such thing as coincidence, there is. You know, relatively frequently, odd things happen in your life and you chalk it up to a coincidence. And it usually is. But there's just too many things in this case that you now start to think, that makes sense now. That makes sense now. If you have probation violation, don't you normally have to serve your time? Yes, you do. That's the punishment. You're out on probation, which is basically you've got to behave yourself. And if you don't, if you violate your terms of probation, then you're meant to go and serve your original sentence. Yes, absolutely. It's the same in this country, just like it is in the United States, but not when you've got a family friend who's called Nick McClelland, who happens to be the prosecutor. So it seems that Nick McClelland could just go ahead and do what he wants. Just a month after Nick McClelland takes office, just a month after. Nick McClelland, position, December 2nd, 2017. This is December 6th, 2017. And then a month later, Ron Logan is released from prison. His sentence modified to in-home detention. Yes, there you go. So, what Reese Davis, one thing that we can corroborate from Reese Davis's letters, easy to corroborate because all of the news pieces from that time are easy to find. What more can you say? Now, some things that we can't corroborate from Reese's recent communications are things like links between Ron Logan and Kegan Klein. If anybody can find a link between Ron Logan and Kegan Klein, I'm all ears. I am all ears. All ears. We don't know. I mean, I believe that what Reese is saying is his truth. That he was told these things. But is Ron Logan telling the truth? Was Kegan Klein telling the truth? And Kegan Klein, we know he's a liar. So the Ron Logan stuff, I can believe it because it fits better with the timeline we know now. And I've said this several times now. Ron Logan's confession to Reese Davis fits better the timeline based on Libby's phone data, Libby's Apple Health data that came out of the trial. It fits it better than Rick Allen's. So the state's theory of Rick Allen's confession to Monica Waller, which I don't believe happened at all. It's interesting that on the 3rd of May, 2023, when this confession that ended up being so convincing to the jury was allegedly said by Rick Allen when he was in a period of psychosis. So that in itself should have disallowed that being admissible in a trial. When somebody's psychotic, you don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're saying. But I do not believe that Rick Allen said those words. I know conveniently, when he said those words to Monica Waller, he wasn't being recorded. Even though for the 13 months he was in Westvale, literally 24/7, he was on camera. For the whole time, 24/7 in his cell, he was on camera. When he was walking from A to B throughout the prison, they were following him around with a video camera. But this one time when he met with Monica Waller, this one time there was no camera, there was nothing. So all we had is Monica Waller's notes. And oh no, she shredded her notes so she couldn't produce them to the court. She shredded her notes and just put, cliff notes in the database. So we've got Rick Allen's alleged confession, while psychotic, in Monica Waller's words. All right. So the van, the things that only the killer would know. We know absolutely that van did not pass by at 2:30. And we absolutely know that wasn't a piece of information that only the killer would know, because the van has been known. It's been out on social media since 2017. Lead with love. What does that say? Monica Notawala. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the Secret Agents Club. That's a bit of a mouthful to say, though. It's one of the longest names I think we've got in chat today. So, and we absolutely know that this confession does not work with the timeline that is set in stone now from Libby's Apple health data. But the confession that Ron Logan gave, it does fit. It does fit. But this latest stuff that he's come out with about the links between Ron Logan and Kegan Klein, we kind of have to take his word for it, or we have to take Kegan Klein's word for it. And I've got a problem with that, because we know Kegan Klein is a big fat liar. But that leads me nicely into these news clips. So I've got 5 news clips lined up, all relating to Kegan Klein when we first heard the name Kegan Klein. Now, I think unbeknownst to anybody, the Kline residence, so Kegan lived with his dad, Tony, in Peru, Indiana. It's not too far away from Delphi. Their house was raided just 11 days after the murders, because presumably it was investigation of Libby's phone, Libby's social media, that unearthed this connection between Libby and a profile known as Anthony Shots. And behind the profile of Anthony Shots, which was all these young girls that Anthony Shots was communicating with. Now, he wasn't just communicating with Libby, he was communicating with a whole bunch of underage girls. Getting, I don't know, disgusting, sordid pictures from them and stuff. So communicating with them. And that's what he's eventually got 40 years for, is child porn, child exploitation and child porn. So Libby was one of the young women that he was communicating with. And he wasn't using his face, he was using this male model. So he was basically catfishing them all. So this male model, all these young girls thought they were talking to this, handsome young lad. And actually behind the keyboard was Kegan Klein. So their house was raided, and then seemingly nothing was done. Nothing was done. Now, this is from December 13th, 2021. Indiana State Police released statement on delayed Kegan Klein arrest, Anthony Shots profile. So they had to explain themselves why they knew about this guy all this time, and yet it took them so long to arrest him. So Kegan got... The case rumbled on for a long time. He eventually got 40 years, but it got delayed and then delayed and then delayed. And there was this continued speculation as to whether Kegan was actually one of the people responsible for the Delphi murders. Because investigators told Kegan that he was the last person to speak to Libby before she was murdered. So what are the odds? What are the odds that Libby would be communicating with Anthony Shots, aka Kegan Klein, on the very day that she was murdered? Now, Kegan has denied that he's admitted to communicating with Libby, but communicating with her on the day she was murdered. Investigators put that to him, but I don't think he ever admitted that. So this is from December 2021.
Just into the newsroom, Indiana State Police are answering one question about the child pornography case that may be connected to the murders of 2 girls in Delphi. The case is the Kegan Klein situation. As News 8 was first to report last week, Klein faces charges that include child pornography and child solicitation. Investigators say he admitted to starting a fake social media profile using the name Anthony Shots, and also admitted to using the account to solicit sexual pictures and videos of young girls. State Police publicly asked for other victims of the account to come forward. So the new statement just in from State Police addresses why it took more than 2 years to arrest Klein on the child pornography charges. It says, the information we have, and continue to receive concerning Klein has ebbed and flowed over these last few years. We understand there was a period of time that passed between 2017 and 2020 when Klein was not arrested and incarcerated for possession of child pornography. Once the Indiana State Police presented the criminal case to the Miami County prosecutor in June 2020, immediate action was taken by both the Indiana State Police and the Miami County prosecutor's office, which ultimately resulted in Klein's arrest. Goes on to say, like so many other pieces of this investigation, we will always review, learn from, and make any necessary adjustments. We do not believe that any person has done anything intentionally wrong, but we will continue to critically evaluate our efforts. Again, as we see that new statement, we also want to underscore again, Kline has not been charged in the Delphi murders. To this point, no one has been arrested in that case. State police have declined to publicly identify any possible suspect or person of interest in the murders. It's a story we'll stay on.
So how come it took them 3 years? So they were aware of Kegan Klein very shortly after the murders. And then it was in June 2020 when they eventually decided to do something about it, which then ultimately resulted in his arrest. How did it take them so long? Pretty clear-cut case, really. Why did KK run to LV? Who's LV, Marianne? Why did he run to LV? Oh, Las Vegas. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Liverpool Victoria. No, it's Las Vegas. Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Legged it to Las Vegas after the murders. All right, I'm doing these in chronological order. So this is February 14th, 2022. All right, case update. So this is a case update for the Delphi murders. So this is not related to Kegan per se, but this is kind of the next round of news about the case. Has anything specific happened? Well, yeah, Reese Davis has released a letter in the last few days, and Andrew Baldwin is now in communication with him. Reese Davis is working with Rick Allen's defense team, and I think we're going to hear a lot more from Reese. Now he's being believed about what Ron Logan told him and also what Kegan Klein told him. I think we're actually getting somewhere. I feel very positive about this new information. Didn't he go with his dad? The dad he was trying to throw under the bus. Yes. Yeah, he eventually, like to cut a long story short, he eventually said his dad did the murders. This is why he's a liar. He's a known liar, which is why I'm a little bit reluctant to believe what Kegan told Reese. I don't think that Reese is lying, but it's highly probable that Kegan lied, or at least exaggerated. So I'd like to know what stuff he told Reese that only the killer would know. Because if it's something to do with the murders that we knew, that social media knew, Reese might not have known, because he's in prison, so he's limited in the stuff he can find out. He's got to wait for people to tell him. Right? He can't get on the internet. So if Kegan's just been feeding Reese a lot of stuff that has been known on social media, and Reese's kind of lapped it all up, I could believe that. I could believe that Kegan thinks he's got this person that he can now spin all these yarns to. So yes, he did. He said that, well, we'll get there. But to cut a long story short, yeah, he said his dad did it. Well, he waited in the truck, a red truck, while his dad went and committed the murders, and he turned up, like his dad turned up, blood, all full of blood. Reese is in he has been moved. Andy Baldwin last night said that he's not on suicide watch, so he's not been moved because he's suicidal, but he has been moved at his request. So Reese is fine. He's in good spirits. He requested Andy Baldwin help him move from the pod that Kegan Klein is in. So he is currently in segregation. He is hoping, however, that he's going to get back into like a general pod, but a different pod than the one that Kegan is currently in. Because all of this stuff is coming out, I think it's wise for Reese not to be in the same pod as Kegan Klein. Reese's profile as a swastika. All right. Okay. In interest of fairness, this is Reese Davis's social media from March the 30th, 2013. So we're going back a long time. There's Reese with his tattoos. Unfortunately, can't make out what those tattoos might be telling us. But it's absolutely true that he does have a picture, April the 4th, 2013, of a man with a swastika on the back of his head. Apparently, he was a member of the Aryan Brotherhood at one point. So, not Odinist, but along the lines of what some of these Odinists are doing, practicing Norse paganry. The likes of Patrick Westfall have taken the noble old religion of Old Norse, bastardized it into something that it was never, ever intended to be back in the old days. The vast majority of people who practice Norse paganry these days are not white supremacists. They're not racist. They are practicing a religion that is a lot older than Christianity. But just some of them have used Norse imagery because Vikings are cool. They fashion themselves as these white warriors, and that's where groups like the Vinlanders have come from. So the Aryan Brotherhood are just another group of white supremacists. So Reese Davis was aligned to these people back in 2013. Whether he still is, I don't know. But in the interests of full disclosure, yes, I have those pictures. Anyway, back to Kegan Klein. And also, even if Reese was in the Aryan Brotherhood back in 2013, it doesn't mean to say what he's saying now is untrue, does it? Does it? I've ordered his friends and they are lovely. Yeah, the vast majority of people who practice Norse paganry are just normal people. It's just their religious choice to practice the old religion that stood the test of time for thousands of years. It's only the few, and it's a shame that it does seem to have taken hold in some parts of Europe and also some parts of the United States, that they're using Norse imagery. They're supposedly worshipping Odin and Thor and all of the other Norse gods, when actually what they're really doing is practicing just some good old-fashioned racism, which is very disturbing. You know, it's the same in any religion. You've got the extremist fringe who take the religion and practice it in a way that it was never intended. You can look at Islamic extremists as an example. You know, they've taken Islam and they've made it into the most extreme form that they can. There's extremes in Christian religion. I mean, how much blood was spilt in Europe between warring Christians back in the day? Many thousands of people lost their lives because of religious extremism in the Christian faith back in the day. So, unfortunately, that's what happens. People use religion in a way to, I don't know, to further their own ends, and actually what they are is just violent thugs. And they dress it up as religion, and it gives them, they feel, some form of legitimacy. And it's horrible. But anyway, back to Kegan. So this is a case update. So this was the next round of news that came out. So we got the arrest of Kegan Klein, and then some more news came out. So this is just a roundup. So this was interesting.
Police have never found their suspect, but the girls' families say they aren't giving up hope. Jenny Runovich joins us with a look back at the case that's not only captivated Central Indiana, but the entire country.
Well, this case started February 13th, 2017. That's the day Abby and Libby disappeared while hiking on the Monon High Bridge Trail. Searchers found their bodies the next day, Valentine's Day, in a wooded area along the river. And then the following day, we got our first look at the man in the blue jacket. 1 week later, police released another clue, audio from Libby's cell phone saying down the hill. And those were really the only clues we had for about 5 months. But then, July 17th, 2017, police released this sketch of the suspect. And that's all we had until April 2019. That's when state police announced they were moving in a new direction. They also shared just a few more seconds of video of the man in the blue jacket and this new sketch of the suspect. Well, now in 2022, state police and the girls' family members are still searching for answers. Listen again to the video and audio that Libby German captured on her cell phone that day in Delphi. It remains the best and bravest piece of evidence 5 years later.
She was so smart. I think that video and audio definitely keeps people's attention. I think that helps us a lot. I think people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, this 14-year-old girl thought about taking a video of this. And we have this video and we have this audio and we don't have answers. That's crazy.
But Libby's sister still believes justice will be served. State police do too. Superintendent Doug Carter says investigators are working on it every day.
It's certainly my intention that this case comes to some level of conclusion by the time Governor Holcomb's time's up. And that's very personal to me. But I also think it could be sooner than that.
State police have received thousands of tips, 25 to 30 a week sent to Carter alone. Those tips surge each time investigators release clues, the audio, the video, and 2 sketches of the person they've been looking for, this one, and another very different sketch 2 years later. Police say Abby and Libby's killer is likely a local man.
And I think eventually what we'll be able to do is put the face of the murderer up in between those 2 sketches, and we'll be able to merge them together and become one.
The most recent development from police came just a few months ago when investigators asked for information from anyone who had contact with this social media profile, Anthony_shots. Police say it's connected to the case somehow. For Libby and Abby's family, the not knowing is painful, but they are confident the killer will be found.
It's hard. It's frustrating. It's been 5 years, but we're going to have answers eventually, and it's coming.
Investigators say those answers will come with your help. So here's how to do that. If you have any information that can help police, reach out through the email you see.
All right. Yeah, Rick Allen has been moved. He's no longer in Westville. He's in Pendleton now. That happened a few days ago. So, yeah, he has been moved. Doug Carter is a weirdo liar. Jerry Holman bothers me. Jerry Holman bothers me as well. I can just about bear Doug Carter. I can look at Doug Carter and think, oh, just shut up. Just shut up. But Jerry Holman, I think he's actually quite dangerous. I think he's got a side to him that is very, very disturbing. That's just my opinion. That's all. That's just my opinion. Let's face it, the audio sounds more like a robot. Well, we know now that it was heavily edited. So, you know, all of the people, including me, who've tried to compare Bridge Guy's voice with various people, it's impossible because, you know, that voice, Guys Down the Hill, has been so heavily edited that it probably doesn't sound like the person. Does it? Those sketches look like the Klines. I thought so as well. I thought, well, the older man is possibly Tony and the younger man is possibly Kegan. I thought that. But I don't know that Tony Kline has got anything to do with it. I think Kegan implicated him. Kegan blamed him. Kegan told everybody that his dad did it. And I don't know that there's any evidence at all that Tony Kline was involved. All right, so this now is Kegan Klein acknowledges the Delphi investigation for the first time. So this was just a day after that news piece. We get Kegan Klein coming out, and he spoke to various people. You know, the fact that Reese Davis has been told he can't have an interview with a news reporter because of security reasons. Well, Kegan Klein has been talking from inside prison to numerous people. He's been on the news. He's been on podcasts. Look, if it's good enough for Kegan Klein, why not allow Reese Davis to have a news interview? Don't understand. Don't understand. Don't understand. Carson needs to step down and join his local theatre troupe. Well, apparently he's retiring. Like, he said he would retire when Abby and Libby's killer was behind bars. Well, they've got someone behind bars that supposedly is the killer. So is he going to retire now? Is he going to retire now? Klein has definitely been yapping. Yeah, Kegan Klein will talk to anybody who will listen, which is why I'm concerned about the stuff that he's been saying to Reese. Like, that he's got an ear. He's got somebody who's listening to him, who wants, you know, he's like the center of this man's attention. And what does he know? What does he actually know? Does he know anything? All right, let's listen to this. This is only a short one.
Kline is still in the Miami County Jail on those unrelated charges. And now he's talking on camera for the first time, acknowledging the Delphi investigation in a jailhouse interview with CNN.
Why do you think investigators are putting so much focus on you right now?
I have not a clue. I think it's because they said I was the last person to talk to her, is what they've told me.
And then
Kline says investigators haven't threatened any charges against him for Abby and Libby's murders. And while he's admitted to cheating, or rather creating the Anthony Shots profile to get inappropriate pictures, he says that's where the crime ends.
were you ever trying to meet these girls in real life that you were talking to?
No, never.
Did you have anything to do with the murders of Abby or Libby?
Not at all. And I gave up my DNA, a hair follicle test. I've done everything they wanted me to.
We reached out to state police tonight to ask if they've collected DNA samples from Kline and if Kline's Anthony Shots profile was the last to talk to Libby before the murders. They say they can't confirm either statement. As we wrap up tonight's big story, remember the tip.
So one thing we do know, one thing we absolutely know is investigators told Kegan Klein that he was the last person to speak to Libby. Now, whether the investigators lied to him to try to get him to crack or say more incriminating stuff, I don't know. But that's what investigators told Kegan Klein. We know this because the Murder Shit podcast got a transcript, a huge transcript of those interviews with Kegan Klein. So this is a month later, March 24th, 2022, transcript of police interview with Kegan Klein. So this is one of the things that the Murder Shit podcast managed to get their hands on. It's very interesting that Anya and Kevin seem to be, fingers on the pulse. They're the persons who get all of this stuff released to them. And, stuff being leaked to them. All right, so this is, I do believe, we get the Murder Shits on this. Is this one of them with them? Right, maybe they just talk about it. Anyway, this is 6 minutes. The alleged photo of Abby on the bridge, defense says it's not in evidence. I believe it was photoshopped, but who knows? I don't think it was photoshopped. The reason why I don't think it was photoshopped is because of the shadows. When you Photoshop an image, you never get the shadows right, like where the shadows should be falling, from the sun. I think it's a genuine picture. The question is whether it was taken at 2:07 on February 13th, 2017. So I think the question is not that it's a genuine photo. I do think it's a genuine photo, but was it actually taken at the time that we all thought it was taken? I think that's the question. Can anyone answer this question? Are private investigators able to get hold of evidence like geofencing? That would depend. That would depend. Like if it's something that's in discovery and it's not been released, then no. They'd have to rely on law enforcement to give it to them. So I'm not saying they couldn't, but they'd have to go to the, if they were relying on law enforcement and law enforcement said no, then they'd have to do their own investigation. They'd have to start from scratch. Look, I'll show you what I mean about the picture of Abby. I can find it. I do have it. It's whether I can find it. I need to seriously sort out my Delphi file. I just like dump screenshots in a folder, and then I never sort them out. Like, I don't label them or anything, and it's just a big. Oh, there it is. Here we go. That wasn't too painful, was it? All right. There's that shadow. Thank you for the 10 memberships. Leads with, I'm not even going to try, but thank you so much. We've got Silence, Cheryl, It's a New Day, T-Dub, aka Cecil, K, Into Dark Places, Embrace the Changes, Remy Rainbow, Answer 42, and Samantha. Thank you so much for gifting 10 memberships. That's very kind of you. Leads with love, Monica. Monica, not love. That's great. So welcome everybody. If you've never been a member of this channel before, go and check out the members area. And we've got members lives, we got videos, we got bloopers, we got cute pictures. All right, so the reason why I think this is not photoshopped is because getting that shadow right would be so difficult to do. People forget when they Photoshop, like they take a picture of a background and then they Photoshop somebody into it, they forget about shadows. And this is afternoon, so the sun's in the west, and that shadow is just in the right place where it should be. So this is the north side of the bridge here. So north, south, east, west. So sun's coming this way, throwing that shadow. And if the bridge was a little bit longer, you'd even be able to ascertain an approximate time of day that this was taken. But you can't, because the end of the side of the bridge is there, so the shadow kind of goes off. We're not talking about the sky as a stock sky. We're talking about this shadow right here. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the sky. We're talking about where the sun would be at that time of day. The shadow is askew, shadows don't bend. The reason why this looks like it's bending is because of this end of the bridge here, which is higher. So the shadow's not flat because it's projecting onto this raised piece here on this side. It does have a filter on it, I think, most probably. Then again, I don't know. So I think it's a genuine picture. I think it's a genuine photo. If it's photoshopped, it's a bloody good one. And again, if that side of the bridge there wasn't there and that shadow was allowed to just be natural, you'd even be able to tell approximate time of day from the length of that shadow corresponding to the height of Abby. But you can't, because the shadow goes off the end. But my issue is, was it really taken at 2:07 on the 13th of February 2017? It could easily have been taken at some other time. But I think the photo is genuine. The question is the time. All right. Okay, where were we? All right, this one. So this is 6 minutes. March 24th, 2022. And this is related to the release by the Murdership podcast of the Kegan Klein interview. There's even people who have read the transcript. Like, it's huge. It's so long. There's a bunch of channels that read the transcript. Like, did a, mock stuff. Wasn't that her first time on the bridge? 2:30. Allegedly, but we don't know. We don't know whether she's ever been there before. We don't know. The shadow angle seems off. Actually, the bridge doesn't face due north-south. It faces more... Hold on, let me show you. So this is north. So it's facing northwest. So that's actually northwest. So Abby is walking this way towards the south end. So the sun's going to be kind of there. Run this way. So yeah, the shadow is going to be a bit off center. The shadow is spot on based on the location and the direction of the bridge, the time of day that it was allegedly taken, and again, we can't tell how high the sun was because the shadow gets cut off by the side of the bridge. So for those reasons, I think it's a genuine photo. However, like I said, the question is, was it actually taken at 2:07 on the 13th of February? But look, if you believe it's Photoshop, then that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so transcript of police interview released by the Murdership podcast, and this is Wish TV talking about it. March 24th, 2022.
We begin with 5 o'clock with a new shocking discovery obtained by IT8 surrounding the Delphi murders. It's a story that we broke for you today on WishTV.com.
It's one that a lot of people are talking about. We have new details about evidence police might have in the deaths of Abby Williams and Libby German. And it comes from a police interview with Kegan Klein, the man now in jail, accused of creating a fake social media account to get sexual pictures and videos of underage girls. IT-Mate's Demi Johnson has been on this case since day one. She joins us now with more. Demi.
Hey, Phil. Yeah, this transcript is 194 pages long. It was given to us by the founders of the Murder Sheet podcast, who have been following the case and obtained the court documents. A source with the Indiana State Police has confirmed to me the interview transcript is authentic. In it, Kegan Klein talks about his conversations with Libby German through the Anthony Shots account. And for the first time, we see words from state police about whether they believe Kline was involved in Abby and Libby's murders. This transcript goes word by word through the interview with Kegan Klein, a state police investigator and a sheriff's deputy. It was in August 2020 as police were arresting Kline on more than 30 child porn-related charges connected to the Anthony Shots social media account. IT-Mate first reported in December of last year that Kline was connected to the account.
Police are focusing on a fake social media account.
And News 8 has learned that same account is tied to a child porn case here in Indiana.
And that investigators in the Delphi murders were aware of it in the days immediately after the deaths of Libby German and Abby Williams. During the interview, Klein admits using the account to get sexual photos and videos of underage girls. He also admits having contact with Libby German. You admitted that you talked to her, the investigator says, for a few hours at a sleepover, and then you blocked her because she was annoying. You remember that? Klein responds saying, "You're right. Yeah." But investigators believe that's not all. When Klein denied exchanging photos and messages with German, a state police detective says, "I'm telling you, it's fact. You did, okay? Because the Anthony Schatz persona, that the fake account you admitted to making, communicated with Liberty German on Snapchat and Instagram, and that it was not just for a couple of hours." They also tell Klein another witness was messaging with Anthony Schatz, who says Schatz admitted he was supposed to meet Libby, but she didn't show up. The interview also gives the first public indication that two people may have been using the Anthony Schatz account. As detectives detail February 13th, 2017, the day Abby and Libby went missing, investigators tell Klein, 8 o'clock in the morning at your house where you and your dad lived, two separate devices. See the numbers here, how they're the same? Log in, log out. One device, log in, log out, all within minutes of each other to the same Anthony Schatz Snapchat account. The detective also tells Klein, regardless of what you say, there are two different authors of those messages. They're not both you. They're both your devices, but the phrasing is different. It changes. It's not the same person. So we know we have multiple logins with Snapchat. We have two different people using Kick Messenger talking to people from your residence. Klein denied knowing who else might have accessed the account. During the interview, Klein twice references a polygraph test he was given in the Delphi murder investigation, and both times indicates police told him he failed the test. And just before the interview ends, the detective reminds Klein that when he was asked if he knows who killed Libby and Abby, you said no both times in your polygraph. And guess what? That was deception. Now, several times throughout the interview, Klein denies killing Abby and Libby. We want to be clear, Klein has not been charged in their murders. In fact, no one has been arrested in the case. It's also important to note that neither investigators nor Klein were under oath during this interview, and law enforcement is allowed to exaggerate facts and evidence during questioning. Klein is due back in court on April 14th. He faces 30 charges, including child porn and child solicitation.
Stunning to see that transcript. Demi, you've been on this story since the first day, basically. Okay, so you talked with police, Klein's family, or Klein's attorney, and the family of the girls about this transcript. What did they tell you?
So Abby's mom did not want to comment, and I also tried to reach Libby's family, but they're on vacation right now and they weren't available for an interview. So I asked state police if there was any reason we should not release this interview. They didn't give us one, and Klein's attorney did not respond to our request.
Wow. Demi, you've been staying on top of this. I know you will continue to talk to family, talk to police with any updates that, you know, might be available to us. Until then, we'll make sure that we check back in with you to get more thorough views of this case.
Fantastic job.
I think that it's a good time to try to go down memory lane here about the timeline. Abby Williams and Libby German were dropped off at the Monon High Bridge, February 13th, 2017. Police found their bodies the next day. Police released a sketch of a suspect on the 15th, then a week later released a short video, an audio clip captured on Libby's phone. 2 days later, police served a search warrant at the home of Kegan Klein and his father. In April 2019, police released a second sketch saying new information led to the updated drawing. Then in August of 2020, prosecutors charged Klein with child porn. State police have not named him a suspect in the murders of Abby and Libby.
Oh, I was starting to talk then and I was muted. I can see from the chat that some people have never seen this before, never heard this information before. So, and it supports what I said at the beginning of this live stream, that there's so many people who've come into this case since Rick Allen's arrest and have never gone back. You know, this case has gone on for so long and so much came out before Rick Allen was ever mentioned, before anybody knew Rick Allen even existed. And the whole thing with Kegan Klein went on for years. But I've got one more video to show you, and I'll show you that in a minute, because we have some breaking news. Breaking news, Judge Gull has responded. This is just come out today. Just literally hit the deck. Order issued. Defendant's motion to correct abstract of judgment filed January 20th. So that's a motion to correct errors. Has been reviewed and denied without hearing. There was no way she was ever going to grant them a hearing. Less hell would have frozen over before she would have vacated Rick Allen's conviction. So that was to that was to be expected. So the court, having received defendant Richard Allen's verified motion to correct errors filed January 20th, the state's response to motion to correct error filed February 4th, and the defendant's verified motion to strike the state's response to motion to correct errors filed February 14th, now denies defendant's Richard Allen verified motion to correct error and further denies the defendant verified motion to strike the state's response to motion to correct error without hearing. So there you go. So it's off to the appellant court. Richard Allen is off to the appellant court. Absolutely no surprise. No surprise whatsoever. So bring on the appeal. Absolutely. Absolutely. New judge. This is now going to the appellant court. So Judge Gull has got nothing to do with this unless she's got friends in high places, which, given that this is Indiana, who knows? Who knows how far this thing goes? But we've got some hope here. You know, new judge. We've got new attorneys, including Mark Lehman. And we'll see. We'll see what comes next. We'll see what comes next. No, none of it is a surprise. I would have literally fallen off my chair if she'd have granted them a hearing. Yeah, she denied everything. She denied everything. She denied everything. So, all right, one more video from Kegan Klein. And this was literally just before Rick Allen was arrested. That the news came out that Kegan Klein had been taken out of prison and he'd been, taken on a mystery tour. But Kegan Klein was talking during the summer of 2022. Kegan Klein was talking, and he told cops that his dad committed the murders, that he waited in the truck, so he was basically the getaway driver. His dad turns back up, being all bloody, and then on their way home, they throw items relevant to the investigation into the Wabash River. To the Wabash River. So Deer Creek feeds into the Wabash River. And the Wabash River is on Kegan and Tony's way home. So apparently, items that were central to the Delphi investigation were thrown into the Wabash River. So between August and September of 2022, the police spent 5 weeks searching the Wabash River for the items that Kegan Klein said had been thrown in there. Let's have a see. We got You've got Gamma, who's been a member for 15 months. You've not got too long before you get your OG badge. Good morning from a very chilly New York. It's chilly here as well. It's chilly here as well. Does anybody see the similarities between Kegan Klein and Stacey Wanderer? Well, they probably have got very unhealthy eating habits, shall we just say. But I don't know that there's any actual relationship between them. So what happens now is she refused to correct the errors. It goes to the appeals court. It goes to the appeals court. Does all the information got? Yes. So the appellant lawyers will get everything that they can get their hands on, and they take up the case. So it's basically just passing the baton now to the appellant lawyers. All right. So this is a news clip based on the river search, the Wabash River search. So September 2022, they give up the river search. So presumably they're looking for something like the murder weapon, or I think there was he said they threw a cell phone over into the river. But yeah, I don't know whether even if stuff had been thrown in the Wabash River, whether they did even, get anything 5 years later, 5.5 years later. Like, wouldn't it just be washed away? I guess they were hoping that these items were heavy enough not to be washed away and would have sunk and were still there. But this is just a clip. There's so much news about this Wabash River search. I just chose one of many. And it's interesting that the Wabash River search ended just a month before Rick Allen was arrested. So the hot news on everybody's lips when Rick Allen was arrested was, well, this comes hot off the heels of the Wabash River search. So was Kegan Klein the person who gave the Indiana State Police Rick Allen's name? So could Kegan Klein have been holding back the real killer's name? So Kegan Klein knew maybe Kegan Klein was in cahoots with Rick Allen. This is what people were thinking. This is what I was thinking. I was like, look, the Wabash River search has ended. Maybe Kegan has said, well, look, that's where the weapon went. However, I can give you a name. And we absolutely know now that that's not true. There is no link between Richard Allen and the Klines. But it made total sense to everybody, including me at the time, that it was Rick Allen who had been fingered by Kegan Klein, that finally Kegan Klein had given him up. But no, we now know that it wasn't Kegan Klein, it was Kathy Shank that found Rick Allen. Let's just play this for a minute. Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us in. It's 11. We want to begin with these breaking new details emerging tonight as Indiana State Police search a river near the home of Kegan Klein. This is the man in jail on charges of child porn and exploitation. He also admitted to creating the Anthony Shots catfish profile, which communicated with Libby German before the Delphi murders. Now, today, state police started a second week of searching the Wabash River under the Kelly Avenue Bridge in Peru. Divers are leaving markers there, tracking their progress, but they won't say what they're looking for. Now, we do know Klein's home is just minutes from the search site, and state police took Klein out of jail just 5 days ago to meet with investigators. Tonight, we heard from the witnesses who've been watching the teams as they searched.
I saw them. They started basically on the south side, and it was about 8 guys, and they were all dressed in the exact same wetsuits.
That Kline has never been named a suspect in the Delphi murders, and he's actively denied any involvement in the case. Tonight, he's currently behind bars on those charges of child porn and exploitation.
All right. So he got 40 years. Yeah, he's already got appellant attorneys appointed. Mark Lehman is one, and then the other one, her name escapes me. But Mark Lehman is the guy who spoke at the Indiana Supreme Court back in January of 2024. If you remember, when Judge Gull disqualified Brad Rosie and Andrew Baldwin, they took the case. There was Cara Weineke and a bunch of people, including Mark Lehman. They took the case to the Indiana Supreme Court, and that's how Rick Allen's rightful attorneys, Brad and Andy, were reappointed. Stacey Oliana. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right. And I'll just put this back up for those who didn't see. So he already has appellant attorneys, but Mark Lehman was the guy who actually spoke at that hearing. It's on this channel. It was televised, so you can go back and listen to it and watch Mark Lehman in action. Just go back and listen to it. So he is there we go. It's on there. So they're actually on the court record already. So Stacey Oliana, I can't say it, Oliana and Mark Lehman. So they're getting copied in to all of the court stuff because they are on his team now. So look, they haven't even copied in Brad and Andy. Brad and Andy are not copied. Brad, Andy, and Jennifer are off. Brad. I do know when these were filed, Andy filed his appearance. He filed his reappearance. Andy did. Just so that Gull couldn't get him any technicality. Because technically, once Rick Allen was convicted, technically, he doesn't have those attorneys anymore. He doesn't have Brad, Andy, and Jennifer anymore. So Andy refiled his appearance, but she's not copied them in. So this has literally just come out. Came out a few minutes ago. So all the motions have been denied. Defendant's motion to correct abstract of judgment filed January 20th, reviewed, denied without hearing. The judge received defendant's verified motion to correct errors filed January 20th. The state's response to motion to correct error filed February 4th, and the defendant's verified motion to strike the state's response to motion to correct error filed February 14th. Now denies defendant Richard Allen's verified motion to correct error and further denies the defendant's verified motion to strike the state's response to motion to correct error without hearing. So it is off to the appeals court with lawyers, Stacey Oliana, hey, I said it right, and Mark Lehman. She won't have read them, no. She's just come along and said, no, denied. So I'm sure that Mark and Stacey will take that baton and will do a sterling job. I'm sure that Brad, Andy, and Jennifer will give them all the assistance that they need to fill them in and to start them off. And they've got a good team of investigators behind them. So the case is now out of Judge Gull's hands. She cannot interfere anymore. We say that, and I think, could she? Does she have friends in the appellant court? Could she pull in some favor? Maybe, but will she? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. So it's going to be a long road. A long road. However, I think Rick's got a very, very good case. A very good case. You know, completely new eyes, both in terms of the attorneys, Mark and Stacey, but also in terms of who's actually going to be, you know, sitting in judgment here. It's going to be very interesting. Meanwhile, Rick is in prison. He's at Pendleton. He has been moved from Westville. He is at Pendleton. So I don't know whether his conditions are any better at Pendleton than they were at Westville. But surely anything is a step up from Westville. Surely anything is a step up from there. So appeals are not quick. Appeals take time. But they need to get this right. They need to get this right. And I believe he's got a better than average chance. Because the vast majority of people who appeal a sentence get turned down. But I think Rick has got a better than average chance based on all of the absolute shenanigans that has gone on over the last 2 years. There's so many things that have gone on over the last 2 years that a fresh set of eyes need to see. Absolutely need to see. Yeah, it's on screen. She denied everything. She denied it all. She denied it all. So off to the appellant court they come. Yep, people are watching. And on that note, I did say this was going to be a brief one. I've said all I needed to say. I could have done this all as a recorded video, make it more concise for people who don't like lives and prefer recorded videos. But you can blame Defense Diaries for this because I didn't have time to record a video this morning because I had to watch Defense Diaries with Andy Baldwin. So if you haven't seen it, so Defense Diaries podcast, and Andy Baldwin was on there. So I spent a good couple of hours talking with Andy, and Bob and Ali also read through the motions. And, well, they've been denied. So there you go. All denied. All denied. So I shall bid you farewell. I'm going to go and do the stuff I need to do now. And then Karen Reid hearing is going to be starting soon. Can't remember exactly what time it's starting, but it's starting soon. So if you're following the Karen Reid case, there is a hearing this afternoon, or maybe this morning their time. It'll be this morning their time. So yeah, that's where I'm headed now. So go and check out Defense Diaries with Andrew Baldwin, and if you're following Karen Reid, that's another crazy shit show of a case. Crazy case. Yet another one. We've got one in the UK here. Another potential miscarriage of justice, a Lucy Letby case. But, all right, guys, I'm just waffling now. So thank you all for joining me. Thanks, as always, to the mods. Thank you to those that donated early on. Welcome to the new members. And let's get Andy to play us out, shall we? All right. Bye for now, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Before an angry Andrew Baldwin left the courthouse, 13 News overheard him speaking to Richard Allen's wife, saying, "It ain't over. The world's watching. The world sees what's going on."